Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you are a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast. I am Dave Murray, the Vice President of Consulting for the DiJulius Group, and we're doing something a little different today on this week's episode of the Customer Service Revolution podcast. Joining me today, I'm thrilled to have two great graduates of our CXEA program, and that is Rebecca Blaisdell and Megan Francis. I'm so glad to have you both join us today. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Dave.
So let me give our audience a quick overview, and then I'll have you two introduce yourselves a little further. Rebecca and Megan are both from an organization called Invest West, which is based in beautiful Vancouver, Washington. And we'll hear more about that in our podcast today, too, I'm sure, because it's a lovely part of the country. And they both went through CXEA together. Now, for those of you that might not be familiar with that term, CXEA stands for the Customer Experience Executive Academy. So it's the process of going through a 12-month program to learn all of the DiJulius Group's 10 Commandment methodology with the goal of having a complete understanding of it, taking it back to your organization, being able to conduct workshops, and then create the deliverables and then roll those out to your organizations and, of course, manage them going forward. So that's what CXEA is all about. And Rebecca and Megan, as I mentioned, went through it together. And have done some wonderful things that I'm really excited to share with our audience today. So if we can start with you, Rebecca, could you just give us a little introduction on yourself and also on Invest West?
Happy to. My name is Rebecca Blaisdell. I'm the Chief Operating Officer with Invest West Management. Invest West is a over 45-year company, property management firm located in Vancouver, Washington. However, we manage investment property and homeowners associations throughout Oregon and Washington. And so we have a diverse team supporting our HOA department, our rental management department, and our maintenance department, which was kind of a unique challenge as part of this process to be able to find messaging that worked for all three. But it is a family-owned business. We are on second-generation owner with Chris Barber as the owner, and his son Jordan is the third generation working for the company now. So we are a mid-sized company of about 70 employees. Certainly not large, but we're not tiny.
Right.
We're growing intentionally in our market.
And I'll just point out one additional thing. Chris is a fan of the work that you guys are doing, and that helps out tremendously to know that you have a leader who is supporting you and wanting to go through this process. So that's great. All right, Megan, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, and before I let you go, I'm just going to point out for those that are watching this on YouTube that you can see Megan has her CXEA diploma in the background in her office today. That's a very nice looking touch there you have.
Excellent. Yes, I am so proud of my diploma. And as mentioned, I am Megan Francis at Invest West. I serve as our office manager, our marketing manager, and I also oversee our training and auditing department.
That's a lot.
A lot of hats worn,
Yeah.
but a lot of great opportunities to get to interact with our team and our clients.
And I have to say that you two, with your roles, both of you coming from one organization and sitting through the same coursework, sitting through the same classes, makes so much sense because your roles, you're both fully integrated in this project, right? And we need that. We need someone from the C-suite to be overseeing this and be heavily involved. And obviously, Megan, you're bringing to the table the training and the quality assurance, and those are so important to this process. So it was really a great fit to have the two of you come through CXEA and do it together.
Yes.
I would highly encourage companies, if they have the ability, to send more than one person at different
Mm,
levels in the company, simply because by attending, it gave me a much stronger understanding to be able to be supportive of Megan and the practical day-to-day needs to roll this out in a way that was meaningful to our team, that I'm not sure I would have fully understood without attending and fully participating myself.
sure. I'm going to dive into our first question, and it's simply this: what prompted you, as an organization, to look into CXEA in the first place? Now, just to be transparent, you guys also did a little bit of consulting with the DiJulius Group as well along the way, but the two of you really spent a lot of time on CXEA, went back and conducted some workshops, created some content, rolled it out, and did a wonderful job. What prompted you? What was there one issue? Were there a couple of issues that kept popping up? But what was kind of that lever that made you all say that we need to look into getting some assistance here?
One of the biggest things for us was on the consulting side, actually.
Mm,
Uh, that's where we kept hearing from potential clients the pain points they were feeling in their interactions, wanting to have a better customer experience. How do you define that? How do you provide that training effectively for your team? And so that started us down the path, and it's how we found the DeJulius Group, was really on the consulting side. And once we learned more about the services and were so impressed with what your team had to offer, we really wanted to go all in. And as leaders within the company, we felt that going through the CXEA, through the academy, would enable us to have the tools necessary to fully support our team, and not just do a surface task to say that we checked a box, but really live and breathe it and change and grow our culture around this area. And so that was sort of the path that we followed, and it was very, very beneficial for us.
what sort of things were you hearing? Does anything come to mind?
Consistently, particularly after COVID, and I don't think it's unique to our industry. I think and we felt it as consumers as well in our own personal experience, that there had been some loss of personal touch, loss of real experience, and things were more transactional in nature. And maybe technology was being utilized in a way that maybe at times prohibited a truly good experience, a memorable experience. And we heard that so often, and we were experiencing ourselves as well, that we really came to realize that some of us had an understanding of what we thought was a good customer experience, but as a
Mm,
company, we wanted to fully define that and have it be not top down, but have it be throughout all levels of the company, be able to participate in developing that set of rules that we are all going to live by. And that was something that appealed to us with the Julius Group, was that it didn't feel like a top down driven program. It felt like an organic, intentional methodology that would allow our team to join us on the journey and be excited about it and want to do it, versus just a training program that we were making them sit through that may or may not be embraced.
right. Or may not even apply in some cases to their day-to-day roles.
Right.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, that sometimes some off the shelf training, it might be nice, but it may not apply to everyone. And that can really cause issues with the overall buy in of the initiative versus whether you're coming to CXEA and then going back and conducting workshops or having us come in as consultants. As you two know, when you're doing that, you're actually getting a good representation of your organization together in a room to go through that workshop where they are actually working to create the experience of the future, right? As opposed to just getting some off the shelf training that you hope is relevant. Okay, excellent. You brought up not just another training. I'm curious though, there probably were some skeptics, right? When you got team members together for that first workshop that you two conducted, there were probably people that were skeptical, maybe not all that excited to be a part of it. Did you have some pushback at the in the early goings?
We did, yes. For example, we actually had a team member reach out and inquire, is it necessary that I attend this training? My days are so packed working with our clientele. Do I need to be present? And of course, having our experience so far working with the DeJulius Group, we said absolutely. this is going to be a workshop that you will leave feeling more confident with what we do in our day-to-day business with our customers. And so the employee came and left the workshop attesting to what she learned. She felt like it had changed her entire perspective on the job that she does, that she was excited to come to work the next day and
Mm,
apply the skills that were learned in the workshop. And that was just one of many employees who came skeptical, unsure what exactly customer experience meant and how that was going to be applied to our industry or our day-to-day work, and left feeling like they were part of something that they haven't received from any other employer in the past.
great. That's great to hear. And I say this somewhat tongue in cheek, but we hear that pretty often, not to pick on your team member who said that, but the gist of the conversation is usually something along the lines, and again, tongue in cheek, I'm very busy providing mediocre service. How do you expect me to make time to learn how to provide great service, right? So it's just one of those things of juggling priorities and understanding how important it is. And a lot of times great service can help clear your calendar a little bit too, right? It gets some of the complaints off your desk and some of the other issues and pushback that you sometimes have to deal with. So there is definitely a light at the end of the tunnel.
And it
Exactly.
was particularly beneficial because it wasn't someone who historically buys into change or training
Mm.
quickly.
Okay.
To have that person share that and share it not only with us but with other team members, it was really powerful in
Right.
a way that I think even brought more people on board, because it's not a person who's a rah rah change is great person, and
Mm.
for that person to be persuaded was really tremendously powerful.
Well, that's great. That helps tremendously. That's really good to hear. So let's talk about that first workshop for a second, right? So I asked, my last question was, did you get some pushback? Were people kind of like, great, more training? Do we really need this? And you gave that great example of where you heard those very words, I'm too busy to come. All those things that we hear when it comes to trying to make some positive change within our organizations. But let's talk about the start of your journey, right? So you two came to CXEA, you learned to conduct some workshops, you went back and you did that first workshop. Kind of walk me through the actual workshop itself and almost the moment of, maybe there's some nerves at the beginning. Are we prepared enough to do this? To that point where you actually start to see it come together and you start to see team members working together and working towards that common goal. Can one of you walk me through that, how that first workshop went?
Yeah, our first workshop was really exciting. This was our team's second time, and some of them their first time meeting Dave. Right,
Mm,
Dave, you had been there a few months prior to do our discovery
yeah,
visit, where you got to learn about our team, really hear from the folks that are on the ground of what their interpretation was of our customer experience. So, this is the first workshop that we brought our group into to really hear what the methodology was surrounding customer experience. And that workshop in particular, we were building our signature experience, focusing on different aspects of our job roles and how we can improve those by looking at above and beyond opportunities, ways that we can combine our operational tasks that are part of our day to day, that are usually in place with the company, and make them something more of an experience, and also look at our shortcomings. Where do we falter either as a company or as an industry? A lot of our team hadn't looked at the cycle of our job duties through that lens. So that was
right.
really refreshing for our team to come together all in various job roles. And one thing that we learned through the DiJulius Group methodology is silos exist. Departments form silos often unintentionally, and these workshops really broke down the silos where collaboration was taking place with folks that are all across the organization, often don't get to work together in that type of fashion, or are not versed or familiar with that particular role that we may have been discussing when creating a signature experience, and give insights that hadn't been expressed prior or thought of prior. So that was really neat to see collaboration across our groups. As part of our experience, we did some walking as a company throughout the halls. We had large pieces of poster board on the walls of the Hilton for our experience, and to bring that back to our group and to do that locally was really neat and left feeling more solidified as a group. Our silos had been broken for that day.
That's great. And, one of the actually probably two of the big outcomes of that particular workshop that you're referring to that we call the customer experience cycle. Two things typically happen. One is you have team members collaborating to, I mentioned this before, but to again start to create that experience of the future, right? The Invest West experience, what we want to have happen at these particular interaction points, how we want to have a greeting, what that should look like every time. So we're consistent. Doesn't matter what time of day they phoned in or which particular team member they're interacting with. We're delivering a consistent experience, and that's so important. So we start to lay the groundwork for that. But when you brought up collaboration, Megan, it made me think one of the other great things about that particular workshop is while team members are collaborating, very often they're sharing best practices. Because what we find is every once in a while, one department may have this best practice in place, but they've never thought to share it with other departments or other team members, or one particular location may be doing this particular follow up, which is a great best practice. But again, it hasn't been shared company wide. So a lot of times we're creating new standards that we want to go follow consistently, but sometimes it's really sharing of internal best practices that have not been shared across the entire organization.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the challenges that brought us to the DiJulius Group was inconsistency across locations.
Mm,
We saw that show up through a phrase we learned through the DiJulius Group, employee roulette, where
mm,
you may reach one team member and have an experience that's wonderful, but you call back an hour later and maybe reach another team member, and the experience doesn't match what you had received prior. And that inconsistency can lead to frustration with our customers, a level of uncertainty. You don't know what you're going to receive when you reach out and you're facing employee roulette. And that was a challenge that we wanted to address through our partnership and through attending the academy of how we can get that consistency across the board. And that was really step one with our first workshop. How can we identify a way to be consistent and provide that same experience for all of our clientele?
excellent. So you did that workshop, and I was thrilled to be a part of it. I got to come out, and I love spending time in Vancouver, Washington. It's such a beautiful part of the country, as I mentioned. But you also took some CXEA learnings and went back and did some work yourselves with some team members. Can you tell me a little bit about what you accomplished on your own, without me coming out there, just you guys taking what you learned and putting some things into practice?
Yes. One of the first initiatives that we took from our academy experience was identifying a group within the company that we called our ambassadors.
Mm,
So, our ambassadors were individuals within the company that already showed an intuition towards the customer experience, had a level of passion, and also had a level of buy in with our team. We wanted individuals that would be able to go back to their respective departments and really champion around the idea of customer experience. So, Rebecca called 17 employees individually and asked them if they would like to be part of our ambassador group. It was received wonderfully. We
great.
had an initial project with our group to do some background knowledge on customer experience so that we all came forward on day one of meeting as our ambassador group of what our goals would be moving forward. So, the initiative that we took from our workshop, creating our customer experience signature service, was
Hmm.
how do we implement that continually? And as an EOS based company, and Rebecca
Hmm.
will clarify on EOS a bit further down the line here of how that really works well with the customer experiences, we established rocks. So rocks are our quarterly goals, and we decided that we across each department would have a customer experience based rock. So that rock was creating signature experiences based off the duties that are completed within those departments and having them finalized each quarter. So we have a handbook now of those
Hey,
signature experiences, utilizing the information we learned both at the academy and at our original workshop to have a playbook for current staff and for new staff to quickly reference what is an above and beyond opportunity, depending where they are in sort of the cycle of that everyday duty, sort of the core fundamental of the work we do, how to achieve an excellent experience. And also, when things go wrong, because they will, that's inevitable in any
yeah,
workplace, how do we overcome those obstacles and really win the customer with their loyalty through that satisfaction, knowing that although there may be hiccups along the way, we have the recovery tools necessary to maintain that relationship.
One
excellent.
one of the best things, most rewarding, fun things that we were able to take from our work with the DiJulius Group and bring it back and have it become part of our culture. We established, Steve Barber was the founder of Invest West Management, Chris's father and his mother.
Hmm.
But we established the Steve Barber Summit Award, and it's given to the team member that year who has gone above and beyond in experience and ethics. And we awarded the first Steve Barber Summit Award at our Christmas party. And it was to a team member, I think he's been with us 12 or 13 years, but literally had tears in his eyes. And it was so meaningful to him, to everyone in the room, to be able to celebrate those achievements. We also are now celebrating Cotton Action above and beyond every quarter with our team, and we're chronicling those stories so that we can celebrate and reward people as they're happening. But the Summit Award is the highest honor that the company can bestow now, and that came directly from our work with you guys and was very powerful and meaningful for us.
Well, that's fantastic. I love to hear that. Excellent news. So we went through the journey mapping process, right? We did that workshop and journey mapped, and we focused on Secret Service, which in our world is really a focus on actively listening, right? Making sure that our team members are paying attention, looking for cues to maybe have a conversation, to build rapport, build a relationship outside of just the transaction, as you brought up before. How you said we could be transactional sometimes, Megan, and really focus on an interaction and building a relationship with whomever that customer is. Because as you mentioned, Rebecca, you have a diverse group of customers, whether they're property owners, HOAs, et cetera. So you have a diverse group of people you're dealing with. And it's really all about finding ways to make a connection at the end of the day, right? That's really the important piece. So now here comes an important question. So you had the workshop, you created the playbook. How did the playbook rollout go? How was adoption, and what changes have you seen?
Yeah. So the adoption went well for one really standout reason for from my perspective, and that was the involvement that was set across the teams. It wasn't just our ambassador group who worked through this initiative. It was really the employees that are boots on the ground in the weeds, giving their perspective and having that perspective then be applied on a larger scale and implemented in a company initiative, that was a huge factor when it came to getting the buy-in. The
Mhm.
buy-in's so important, and that's something we learned through our time in the academy and working with the DeJulius Group is that these decisions could be made on a higher level or with a C-suite group, but if it does not connect with those that are our customer facing employees, it's not going to resonate as well. You're not going to get that click. So
Yep.
having them be an integral part of the development process when it came to those cycles gave them a sense of pride, a
Mm.
sense of being part of a grander scale project. So that was a great way to buy in for our team to have that involvement and feel like this is something that they accomplished as a group
Right.
was really founding of that initiative. So that aspect of the rollout went well. And also having just quick resource
Mm.
for them to refer back to. We developed this guide that is both digital and something that they can quickly reach to to say, okay, I've got the customer on the phone. I need to be able to solve this concern. Where do I go? So having those quick resources available to them was also key for them to refer back frequently, not just
Mhm.
have it written on a wall all the way across the office, down the hall. Having it in their hands as a quick reference guide is imperative for them to be able to really apply those skills that they developed on a day to day basis.
Excellent.
I
Yes.
think Megan's done an outstanding job of also creating ways through collateral materials and other things to just continually reinforce the things that were put together, our nevers and always and our mouse pads and our just other things to keep it top of mind, to make sure that the technology, there's places for people to store forward information, to be able to really take what we're sharing with them and practically use it in a way that's very effective. And our team wants to do a good job. They always wanted to do a good job. They take a lot of pride in, especially being a family-owned business. There's a genuine passion and I think a desire to do well. The next step was giving them the tools because not everybody comes to the table with the same background, the same customer experience training. And I think it was elevating for all of us to go through this process. There was so much that some people were doing instinctively just because that's who they were, but we never really codified it in a way that they could refer back to that was supportive, and they could celebrate their peers when they delivered. It was a known value that they could see it, that was a deliverable that met our expectations and we could all cheer about it, and so that's been very impactful.
You bring up a really good point. Until you have those deliverables in writing and somewhere available for your team members to be trained on and know to follow them, until you have that, it's hard to celebrate, right? People don't necessarily know what to celebrate or what great service looks like if we don't have it detailed and we have a goal that we're working towards trying to achieve these particular experiences. The flip side of that, it's hard to hold people accountable for bad service too if you don't have that in writing and have that guide, that framework for people to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very beneficial. I think people generally, at least our team, I can speak for our team, they want to do well. And it's part of our role and our obligation as leaders in the company to help them understand what the expectation is. And
Mhm.
they feel a comfort coming to work knowing what's expected of them and then take pride that they achieved it. And I think that leads to longer tenure, happier team members, happier clients and customers.
Yes, excellent. I love to hear that. So, Megan, I'm gonna put you on the spot for a second since you're the trainer extraordinaire on all these materials that you have created and rolled out. Just curious, you mentioned creating your signature experiences, and just curious if you can kind of walk us through what one might look like now and how you would compare and contrast that to before you started this project.
Yeah, great question. Before we started this project, we had just operational outlines, the
Mhm.
ABC steps of how to complete a process with no real emphasis on the experience. It was the day to day tasks, which is common. You see a Dave in the industry, 90% of training is based really on that sort of operational end. Lucky if you have that 10% focused on the experience.
Right.
And that was something we took away from the academy in our workshop, that we were very heavily focused on the operational end and we needed a greater emphasis on the experience end. So that is a change that we made and applied as part of our training. We kept our operational as that standard. That's going to be something, regardless of which company you're in, which industry you're in, there's going to be operational aspects of any policy or procedure that are necessary to complete a job role. But now we have factors on the experience. So that's not just send the email, right? That's send the email, but why don't you ask about their family or their new puppy that you know they were so excited on, or that work trip that they took last month? Let's check in on those items. Let's
Yep.
do our above and beyond. Now, we can't do that perhaps in every transaction, but maybe this situation that I'm working on today warrants that above and beyond opportunity. Like, let's go ahead and send a card. Let's handwrite a card to this client and let them know how thankful we are to work with them and have them as part of the Invest West community. So that's really how our process has changed. Kept our operational ends, but filled each experience, whether that be onboarding of new employees or basic client interactions that are part of property management, and make them customer focused,
Mm.
customer forward in all of our approaches. And how can we be the best part of that customer's day? So, just a standard procedure manual to really an experience guidebook to ensure that each team member is able to fully apply what we want to be able to provide to our clients and how we want to make our clients feel through that experience.
I love that. I love that you brought up being the best part of their day, right? Being the best phone call, being the best whatever that is. But you bring up such a good point too. The idea of sending a congratulations card, right? If I hear that you just got a promotion or whatever, it's interesting because for every one or two employees on any staff that would hear news like that and automatically think, oh, I should send a card, we probably have five or six that wouldn't have that thought or don't know if they're allowed to, don't know if they could expense it. All those questions pop in. There's all these uncertainties that surround doing something like that. So I think half the battle of what you created is not only saying, here's what we want you to do, but it's also giving suggestions, right? It's saying, hey, remember to send a card and we have them here already available, or you can go and pick one up and expense it, whatever that looks like. It's almost the important part is giving the guide, but also giving them permission to do some things that they might not know they could do.
Right, right. Autonomy was crucial for our team when it comes to having such an operationally focused process or procedure manual in play. Just like you said, Dave, oftentimes there's that sort of gray area of what's allowed, what can I do? So we wanted to ensure our team knew from leadership downward that we empower and encourage their creativity and their want to provide that excellent customer experience, like Rebecca had mentioned, and the skills and the tools in order to do so. So we established what we didn't have prior, which is record to maintain forward. Now, that's a word we've thrown out in our call so far, but just to cover, that is
Hmm.
focusing on a human's favorite topic: family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So we established a data bank where we can record that information. We built and established cards, not just branded cards. These have a particular purpose. We learned this in the academy, what we refer to as the 321 method. And that is really touch points of communication for our team. It's an expectation that we have and that they look forward to: three emails to clients per week, two phone calls per week, and one check in card. And we use that as an opportunity to really show that we care for our clients. As we mentioned before, we never want to be transactional. We want all of our interactions to be very personal. So, gave them those tools just right at their grab that they can have to be able to improve the client experience. And then above and beyond opportunities, like we mentioned, not every interaction is able to be an above and beyond opportunity, but when we can, we always will. And our team has the power in order to make those decisions and really make our customers' day.
We had a really great experience, Dave, where we were meeting with our CX ambassador team and we were discussing some behaviors and things we wanted to see. And literally the next day, we got a review from one of our team members, got a review with someone just raving about how extraordinary their experience was with this team member doing the exact same thing the day before we had said we probably want to try to strive to do these sorts of behaviors, going above and beyond. If you don't have the answer, go and find someone who has the answer and make sure that, we're not just passing the buck to someone, but that person is well cared for. And the next day we got a 5-star review from a client who could not believe how above and beyond they felt one of our team had done. And that was extraordinary. We love to see the review, but what was extraordinary was it was such instant validation for everyone on the team that one shift in mindset, one shift in behavior resulted in literally the next day, an immediate result from a client. I couldn't have planned it better. It was just amazing. The client was delighted. The team member was delighted. The team member was recognized by the company, and it was a huge celebration. And it was just fantastic to see that a direct correlation between what we were learning and real world experience.
That's amazing to hear, and it's also a great segue to my next question, Rebecca, because I wanted to ask, you put the work in, you created the guide, people are following the guide, the ambassadors are helping you all make sure that it's a focus and we're talking about it. My question was going to be, well, how did your customers notice? Right. So that's one great example where they felt the above and beyond. They saw the above and beyond enough to where they actually gave you a review and notated it. How else? What are some other examples of maybe some noticeable differences that we've heard from our customer base?
Megan, I know you have a better handle on statistics than I do. I'll let you speak to this, but Dave, I know that very quickly we saw some differences. Just again, going back to something that's tangible for us, reviews, and things that we could measure and track. Megan, why don't you speak to that? Because I know you probably live and breathe it and would have that at your fingertips.
Yes, reviews are one of the sort of key indicators that we have as a property management company. It is fairly industry standard that you either hear from a client or customer when they had a absolutely fantastic experience or a completely negative experience. There wasn't much middle ground that we would gather as a company, and that has completely changed and really been driven by the positive. We went from a few happy clients providing feedback to tenfold more than we had seen the year prior. We actually had an 86% increase in positive feedback that was provided by clients, customers, even prospective customers that maybe don't work with us yet, but got to interact with our staff here and determined that that experience was noteworthy and they shared it with us, which was fantastic. We actually used it as an opportunity to be able to reward our team for positive reviews that came in from our customers, really highlight those that show above and beyond in client experience that they looked forward to be able to share with their team the great feedback that came in from those that they interacted with. And it was a wonderful way for us to boost our morale internally, but also really show the efforts that were put forward by our team members to be able to provide an experience that was worthy of hopping online and letting us know how satisfied they were as a client or a customer.
I think you probably know, Dave, how difficult it is to move the metrics on Google in terms of
Yeah.
increasing your numbers. It takes a lot of reviews in order to move. And we were at a good solid 4.2 when we started working with the DiJulius Group, and we really wanted to just improve upon that. Uh, and we are now at a 4.4.
Great.
That represents a lot of, as Megan said, an 87% increase in positive client reviews, which is just a really tremendous testament to our team and the work that they're doing and how much they've embraced this program and process that we believe in.
That reminds me a little bit of a conversation I had with my son not too long ago about bringing your GPA up, right? It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. You got to get a lot of 3.8s to move the needle and bring the whole thing up. But I'm glad you had that tremendous outcome so far.
We really have, and also when you factor in that as property management in our industry, we are often the no sayers, and so it is not uncommon to have a negative review come in, particularly if it is something that, perhaps there's an issue, a legislated issue or something where we're having to tell a homeowner they can't do something that they want to do with their home because their governing documents state they can't, and so they're unhappy with us. And to see so many positive reviews come in that even if we do have an occasional negative review come in, it's the ability to be able to continue to drive the needle higher is really rewarding.
Yeah, and you guys have to be the bearer of bad news sometimes. It's part of your role, right? And it's not you; it's sometimes from a third party, like the government, etc. But one of the things I remember when we first started working together, I remember hearing was a couple of your existing clients said, "I only hear from you when there's bad news. I don't hear from you when there's good news." And so I think that gave you guys a goal of having some other interactions outside of just that opportunity for bad news. What are the opportunities for good news, or at least me just advocating for you and increasing those interactions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of the work happens behind the scenes that is, very much driven by cycles of either the legislature or seasonality or things like that. And so things are happening, but we really want to ensure that our clients are hearing from us in a variety of ways. And Megan touched on the 321s that
Mm.
we are reaching out to our clients because our team does care. We're really making an intentional effort to reach out and provide that communication that is a fuller and richer communication than what they may have experienced before, and it's being very well received. Our team enjoys it, and I think our clients and customers are really enjoying that too, so it's been a win-win.
Great. Tell me a little bit about every project, every initiative, sometimes has some unexpected benefits, right? So our goal was to improve that customer relationship, improve your overall reviews, which you're on the path to doing, getting some great results. But there's always some unexpected benefits as well. And Rebecca, I think you mentioned a couple already, where maybe it's a little bit of an increase of morale, right? Because we're feeling a little better about ourselves. Maybe we're hearing fewer complaints, a little more positivity as opposed to negativity. Any other unexpected benefits that you've seen from this project, whether they're internal or external?
I really think that before we began working with you and your team, Dave, I didn't fully understand that everyone isn't coming to the playing field with an equal background in terms of the
Mm,
customer experience. I think I knew that, but I didn't really understand it deeply until we really got in. It's probably because I came from a home background and a work background where I had what I think of as good mentors and people who helped me along. And so what was really surprising to me was the deep need for it and the way that we saw people blossom as a result of providing them with real clarity in terms of the customer experience. Mm, I just was really pleasantly surprised to Megan's example a few moments ago. Even some of the people that I would have thought were naysayers
mhm.
have come on board, and that was a delight. It really was, and it couldn't have happened. It was your very first visit with us, the first workshop that you did with
Mhm.
us. That particular individual came up and said, "I was wrong to ask not to attend. This has changed how I feel about my job." That was so profound to me. I was walking on clouds for several days after that. Not because not because just I thought it was gonna help our initiative, but it made a difference in somebody's life who I think it helped,
Right.
and, it was just so powerful.
Excellent.
And I would add to that, in lines of what exactly does customer experience mean? When we talk about we want to improve the customer experience, that sounds like such a simple statement. And through the 10 commandments and really the methodology that was taught to us by the DiJulius Group, we learned one of the most fundamental aspects of providing a customer experience is really empathy, being able
Mm,
to understand the day of the life of a customer, that everybody has experiences that affect that day. And although we may feel that when a customer is frustrated that they are upset with us as a company, right? And that's just not the case. We don't understand what goes on before that interaction or maybe what the customer may be experiencing after that interaction. So being able to approach every experience with the same smile and the same grace and with the same empathy is really important for our team, especially when we work with something as sensitive and as important as somebody's home. in somebody's investment. Oftentimes, the greatest investment that they make in their lives is purchasing a piece of property, or whether that was their family home and now they have invested in a second home and then we're managing that family home for them. That is so incredibly sensitive. So, being able to approach these very sensitive situations with a greater level of empathy and understanding that each customer goes through different experiences in the day and how we can be the best part of their day and the best experience that they have was really fundamental in understanding what exactly providing a good customer experience meant. And as part of our learning in our first session, which was really igniting the revolution towards customer experience, was developing a day in the life video. Now, this was inspired by clients that Invest West had looked at through the DiJulius Group. For example, in the class was a video that was produced originally by Chick-fil-A for their team.
Yes.
Wonderful in providing customer experience, obviously a very different industry than property management. How can we adapt that to be in a way that resonates with our team and the customers that we work with? And how can we apply that same concept that was so touching to us in the academy? And so our ambassador group and I developed a day in the life video. And
Mm,
Dave, you may remember us watching that during our first
I do.
workshop.
I
This
do.
was the first time that that was shared with our company, really with the greater end of our company. And we had such wonderful feedback. Even our president, Chris Barber, when he watched that video, said, it changed his perspective in that moment of our client experience, what we want to provide, who our clients are, and how much they mean to us.
Mm.
So that to me is just a moment I won't ever forget, getting to sit in that room as we watched that video and seeing the reactions of our team and how much it clicked for them, a concept that we had taken from our time in the academy was incredible. And it's a video that we still share with folks that are looking to work with Invest West to gauge that their commitment to the empathy and the understanding of our clients and customers to ensure that this is going to be a great fit for them and that they will blend well with our team and the level of commitment that we already have as a company.
I love that you do that because we talk about that from time to time. A lot of organizations will make a day in the life video. And the concept behind it, for those on the listening today that aren't familiar, it's really all about reinforcing empathy, right? It's all about those things that I wish I knew about that customer before they picked up the phone and called me or before they walked in my door. I would have maybe handled it a little differently had I known that they were going through this or the stress, whatever it is. And it's really just making that assumption that everyone's going through something that requires our empathy. And that's really, really important. But you brought up the fact that you're showing it to potential hires, right? About joining Invest West, and that's so powerful too because to gauge their reaction to that video, do they see that and be like, "Wow, this place is like no other I've ever applied to. This is amazing. I can't wait to start." Or are they not impressed and they're kind of like, "Well, okay, but how much vacation time do I get?" Well, then maybe they're not the right fit for the type of role that we want based on their reaction to that video. So it does give you some really good insights, but I have a question for you, Megan. I'm going to start with you on this one because you brought up the day in the life. You brought up that focus of empathy and how important empathy is to what you're trying to achieve with your customer experience. So I want to get into the concept of sustaining this, right? Sustaining the momentum because you have some great momentum. You already brought up the 87% increase in positive Google and some of the great numbers that you've achieved since you've rolled these things out. What have you done for sustainability? What does that look like? And where have you had some success? I'm sure there's been some bumps in the road too, but where have you had some success when it comes to sustaining that momentum?
Yeah. One of the easiest initiatives that we put forward that we sustain weekly is a huddle. So we
Mm,
do a weekly huddle. Each department manages their own huddle. So every Monday, each department gets together for around 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the size of their department. And that huddle is structured. Now, oftentimes companies have some form of a huddle, usually not as formal, just a quick touch base. We wanted to change that And we actually started without a huddle. We would do weekly meetings as part of an EOS based company. We would have what are called L10 meetings, which are
Mhm.
structured, but they're focused on our job roles and really pushing the needle for our baseline. We wanted these huddles to be focused on our team, on our customer experience, on our goals for the week. So our huddles start off with an icebreaker, get us woken up on a Monday morning, usually coffee in hand. And then it's followed by looking at above and beyonds for the prior week. So we asked our team to each identify if there was an above and beyond and shout out a team member for those that are living to our nevers and our always and our customer action statement. We also have a topic that we discuss each week. So part of what I learned in the academy is really to keep that momentum moving forward. So what I have built for our leaders is each quarter we have weekly topics, and that's focused on different aspects of the customer experience journey, whether that be looking at our signature experience, looking at our commitment to our action statement or our nevers and always when it comes to what we are going to put forward in our customer interactions, and other aspects too, like going above and beyond or being great leaders. So we provide our leadership team to run their huddles with a list of topics each quarter. In the group ends their call every Monday talking about that week's topic, what that means to them, and how they're going to apply it for that week. So that initiative was incredibly important for our team in order to keep the momentum moving forward, to keep the thought of providing an excellent customer experience at the forefront of their team's mind at the start of each business week. We also have our quarterly rocks. So we have each quarter a rock that the team works through based on one aspect of the 10 commandments. What part of the customer experience is really sort of highlighted that quarter, which we try to vary so that we can keep new topics constantly rolling amongst our team. Our ambassador group meets monthly, and we discuss what our goals are for that following quarter, where we are as a company moving the needle in the direction that we want to see towards an excellent customer experience. And then we also have our quarterly and our yearly awards and recognitions. Like Rebecca had mentioned, our Cotton Action Award, that one is really significant because it's not just a vote from our C suite group. It's not just our leadership team that decides who receives that award. It's actually our ambassadors. They come together and they look at our nevers and our always, our commitment to our action statement, the above and beyond stories that had been gathered throughout that quarter in our weekly huddles. And they decide as a group who receives that nomination and that award for that quarter. And then at the end of the year, like Rebecca had mentioned, this past holiday season, we were able to award one of our longstanding employees with our Steve Barber Summit Award, which is the highest nomination you could receive within our organization and is an incredible motivator for our group to have something to strive towards.
Yeah.
So we try to keep the thought of customer experience at the forefront in every chance that we can when we interact with our teams.
Great. The ambassador team, is it still the core group from the very beginning? Have you lost some people or brought some people on? And how involved are they? It seems like they're still pretty involved in this, especially when it comes to maintaining that momentum.
Yes, the same group. And we're a little brazen. We have a large group. 17 is quite large for an
Great.
ambassador committee for being a small to mid-sized range company. As
Hmm.
Rebecca mentioned, we aren't the largest, but we're not small. So 17 members of our team is quite substantial for an ambassador group, and they are integral in pushing our initiatives forward. They are really the face of customer experience when it comes to their departments. They are our champions who bring the buy-in from the group, which is important. You're not able to push initiatives forward without having the buy-in with all your team members, and it's very easy for one naysayer to drag other individuals in just
Yes.
through dynamics in a workplace. right? So we were very strategic in our decision with who would be in the ambassador group by selecting individuals that we know would be champions and having a few from each group. So when they do go back to their department meetings each week, they're able to speak with confidence and with excitement about what we had discussed in our ambassador meetings and have the knowledge and the background from working with Rebecca and I, who had partook in the academy, that they can speak to a level that develops confidence and comfort with their team. Right? They have sort of a north star within their group to help guide their ideas and their thoughts and keep it in line with what we've established through the DiJulius Group.
Great. So here's my question for you, Rebecca. So you have Megan, who's doing a wonderful job with the boots on the ground, so to speak, with the ambassador program, making sure the huddles are taking place, with the ongoing training that she's conducting, all those things that are kind of happening with the front line. My question for you when it comes to sustainability is this: what have you done differently, if anything, or what has your focus been from a senior leadership standpoint, to really make sure that we're maintaining this throughout the organization?
A couple things. One of the things for those who may be familiar with EOS, you have a scorecard. Anything that you want to track has to be measured in order to be able to see that you're getting traction and moving things forward. And we have incorporated our customer experience metrics into the scorecards so that the leaders of each departments, the heads of each departments are addressing it in every weekly L10. So they are having it as part of their conversations and they can hold their team accountable for those measurables. Things like your 10s, did you get your 321s done? And in EOS, it's a yes or a no. There's no explanation.
Right.
It's a yes or a no. And then you bring it over to the issues list. And we actually, if it's a no, it gets brought over to the issues list. And there's a conversation right then and there, not as a shaming mechanism, but as an opportunity to be thoughtfully direct and say, why didn't you? This is our number one priority. And we've all agreed that this is our priority. What do we need to do to help you succeed and help you be able to achieve this expectation? And so that's a real concrete example of how our leadership is able to utilize the tools that we already have in place through EOS, kind of in a marriage with what
Mm,
we learned working with the DeJulius Group to be able to keep things moving forward. Because otherwise, I think it's human nature when sometimes employees may think that they can outlast you, that you bring
yes.
something new on, it's all exciting, and then it gets thrown in a drawer and you go back to the way things were. And if
Hmm.
you just outlast, then this will go away. And I think that we have been really successful through Megan's efforts and the efforts of our department heads and our whole company, really, but making this part of our culture, not a program that we're doing or tasks that we are doing, although that's part of it, but
Hmm.
actually having enhancement in our culture. It was always there, but just really enhancing it and bringing it to a higher level that resonates. And Megan mentioned the day in a life video. That was so profound at the CX Academy to see. Chick-fil-A happened to be the one that we saw.
Hmm.
I actually cried when I it was really moving, and when we brought it back, I was uncertain if our team would have a deep reaction or whether it would just be a, "Oh, yeah," kind of to your point, Dave, do new team members just do they understand the importance of that empathy?
Right.
And it was so profoundly received and by people that I didn't expect, were so moved by it, and it is a really good gauge of whether existing or future team members really are understanding our culture. And if it doesn't resonate with them and appeal to them, they probably need to be free to find an opportunity that is in more in alignment with who they want to be. And that's not a bad thing.
Right.
That's actually a great thing. And then it allows us to embrace those that really it speaks to so deeply. And those team members we can really rely on to sustain this and move this forward. It's been a great experience for us. And I give Megan a tremendous amount of credit for all of the hard work she's done and continuing to do to make sure that we build upon this. The first year was outstanding, but we're not done. We haven't reached the finish line. We're we're
Right.
we're just getting going. So this is really gonna be something we continue long term.
That's great to hear. So one more question for you both. if someone's listening to this podcast today or watching on YouTube and they're thinking about CXCA, maybe they had dabbled in it and looked into it before and they're trying to make their decision, what advice would you have for someone who is considering CXCA at a different organization? What would you think they should know going into that process?
I can think of a couple things from my perspective. I did call and called past participants prior to making
Mhm.
a decision to see how impactful it was, and the responses were glowing, and it sort of solidified the way we were feeling about the process and was kind of the icing on the cake of we need to do this. But I can remember when we got there, from when we first walked in the door to the graduation, not realizing how impactful it was going to be in a class with students from all different businesses.
Yes.
We're all the same in trying to build a better customer experience. It translates. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, that you don't have to be property management for this to benefit you. It's going to benefit you no matter what your business, from small company to multi-million dollar companies. There were companies that we went to class with, students that we went to class with from huge
Right.
international organizations. We all had the same pain points, and it was so beneficial to us. I can't highly recommend it enough. And so I guess that would be my advice, is go in just with an open mind, willingness to learn not only from the facilitators and speakers, but from your classmates, and do it.
My sentiments would be very in line with Rebecca, and that would be to fully embrace the experience. As many, I'm sure, going into that first session, that first morning, and seeing all of the absolutely wonderful and intelligent individuals surrounding you, you could feel, slightly intimidated, not knowing what to expect, not sure if you are prepared. And that is absolutely never the case. As Rebecca mentioned, the experience with the group, regardless of what industry or what background they were a part of, was so enlightening to hear their stories and come back each quarter and see those faces who were once strangers become friends. To see their growth is just as rewarding as it is your own. And to pass that finish line at graduation with your new friends and to be as excited for their journey as you are your own, is an opportunity that one rarely gets in their career, let alone their lifetime, to be able to meet individuals from really all across the United States to hear their experiences. And Rebecca and I actually had a call just before ours, Dave, with our alumni group.
Oh,
We
great.
now friends that we meet with as frequently as possible to talk about our customer experience goals and what we're working on currently, and really stay united as a front. So I would have loved to have known on day one that this group of people that I'm surrounded by would be friends and individuals that I would be connected with through my customer experience up until, even today. I would have probably not even believed myself. I wouldn't have thought that was possible, but it is so true. You leave with the knowledge, the skill set, the tools to be able to have a fantastic customer experience, but be able to apply it in many different scenarios, and also have a wonderful group of people that went through that journey with you as well to lean on, and the excellent fantastic team at the DiJulius Group, like yourself, Dave, like Lindsay, who championed all of the initiatives forward, and John, especially. So, thank you really for being a guide for Invest West through this process, but also having an opportunity in a place where like minded people who are passionate about customer experience can come together and learn.
Well, you are welcome. And you hit the nail on the head because we always say your classmates aren't just classmates. They do become your board of advisors. And you guys are living proof of that since you just got off a call with them earlier today, that you're speaking with your fellow alum and bouncing ideas off of them and keeping the ball moving.
Yeah, the great part, Dave, is the alumni group is not just classmates from our class.
Mm.
We have classmates that have joined us from prior classes that we're now getting to know. And today our topic was on growing leaders and how do we grow leaders effectively within our companies. And everyone was sharing resources and ideas, and that came directly from the CXEA Academy. That those relationships we would never have found this group
Right.
without it. And so moving forward, we're hoping to grow that as new classmates graduate. We hope they join us and we can continue to grow that. But Megan and I would never have dreamed of that on our very first day. And so for someone who's considering it, I would just tell them it's more than what you're expecting. You're going to get more out of it than you think you are. Real measurables that make a difference to your business, but also personally you are going to grow and gain so much more than you can ever imagine. And don't hesitate.
Excellent. Love to hear that. So this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you, Megan and Rebecca, for taking some time to share with me and our audience today. You shared some incredible things, right? You have consistency and clarity now when it comes to the experience, and most organizations don't have that. And that's such a great thing to achieve. You talked about increased morale, kind of a maybe an unknown benefit of this project, which is also huge. And you've had some great metrics, right? So your Google reviews have gone up from a 4.2 to a 4.4, which is equated to an 87% increase in positive reviews, which is amazing. And you've actually gotten some of your customers verbalizing what we're doing for them, right? You shared the example of someone verbalizing how we've gone above and beyond for them and how impressed they were. So those are some amazing things that you guys have accomplished with your work on this focus. So I want to give you kudos for a job well done and keep up the great work because you're doing some amazing things.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate all you've done and continue to do for us, Dave.
Well, you are very welcome. Before I let our audience go, I just want to make sure they know if they want to learn more about CXEA, they can look that up at the DiJuliusGroup.com on our website. You could always schedule a quick call with us as well. There's plenty of ways to get in contact with us. Again, whether it's the DiJuliusGroup.com, find us on social media. As Rebecca mentioned, we'd love to put you in contact with Rebecca, Megan, or another graduate if you wanted to learn more about the program and learn firsthand about the impact. But again, Rebecca, Megan, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you to our listeners. We'll see you next time on the Customer Service Revolution podcast. In the meantime, keep focused on your revolution. And thanks for being here.
What separates world-class customer service companies from everyone else? One significant factor is having someone dedicated to designing and managing the customer's experience. The Customer Experience Executive Academy trains leaders to excel at this. Find out how to enroll now. Contact Claudia at thedijuliusgroup.com for details.